Good evening, everybody. Welcome one and all to the final ordinary council meeting of the City of Canning Council. It's 5:30 p.m, a slightly earlier than normal start, Tuesday the 10th of December 2024. I want to declare the meeting open officially and acknowledge the Whadjuk people, the traditional custodians of the land, and pay our respects to elders both past and present. May I ask everyone here this evening to make sure mobile phones are turned off or at least on silent mode for the duration of the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed via the City's YouTube channel. Council meetings are public meetings and any information you provide shall be recorded and may be publicly accessible. The council chambers are not a parliament and parliamentary privilege does not apply. Elected members and staff risk being held personally liable if their comments are defamatory or breach any duty of confidentiality, and statements made during council meetings are solely those of the person making them. Nothing expressed at a council meeting can be attributed to the city unless it is adopted by a resolution of council. Elected members and employees must disclose any financial proximity or partiality interest they have in an item on the agenda and declare the interest at the commencement of the meeting or, at the very latest, when the item is about to be discussed. Financial proximity and impartiality interests are to be disclosed in accordance with the Local Government Act. Elected members disclosing a financial or proximity interest must not participate in that part of the briefing relating to their interest and must leave the meeting for the duration of discussion of that item. The confirmed minutes of a council meeting are the official record of that council meeting. Verbatim minutes are not required. Nevertheless, the City does publish a full recording of the meeting. Recording of council meetings must not be copied, republished or reproduced without the City's express permission. As far as attendances, we do have Councillor Singh is not with us this evening. Approve leave of absence. There are none. Disclosures of interest. CEO Michael Willetton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to item 3.1, declarations of financial interest, I have received none for tonight's meeting. In relation to item 3.2, declarations of impartiality, I have received one from Deputy Mayor Amanda Spencer-Teo. In relation to item IE 021 of 24, the item details are tender 33-2024 for Corinthian Park Hall renewal. The nature of Deputy Mayor Spencer-Teo's interest is she's a member of the club.
Thank you, CEO. At item 4, announcements by the presiding member. I really don't have much to say tonight other than that it's been an extraordinarily successful year for the City of Canning. I wanted to thank my Deputy Mayor and also our councillors for their incredible contribution to our communities across the City of Canning, our 16 suburbs and all of our 105 residents, and also to our CEO, Michael Willetton, our staff and our governance team for helping us through with their guidance during the course of the year. Thank you very much. And on that note, Deputy Mayor, did you have something you'd wanted to say just in relation to the Shelley Beach Park?
I did, if that's okay. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to share some feedback that Councillor Kunza and I got from the contractors down at Shelley Beach Park yesterday. Warren, don't look so worried. The contractor was just saying how impressed he is. He's been installing playgrounds for over 10 years and how impressed he was with the city's design work. So I just want to have a big shout out to Director Bo and his team, Giles and Azel and all the parks team. They said that the design was better than they've ever seen of any playground design. The quality of the equipment is very impressive. Said we've clearly spared no expense and we really care about our community because we've given them the best of the best. And he lives in Joondalup and he can't wait to drive his kids all the way over to the Shelley Beach Playground. So I just wanted to share that feedback. Obviously everyone knows how long this has taken and how much the public have been anticipating the opening of the playground, but when you get such positive and glowing feedback from the guys who are working on it, they've really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to pass that on to staff.
Fabulous, thank you. Please ask him not to drive over here with his children. We don't have a lot of parking there from Joondalup. I'm sure there's a playground up Joondalup way he can take his children to. That's fabulous feedback. Thanks for providing it, and that reflects not only on the administration but the decision making of this council. So thank you one and all. I can't wait to see it open next week. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Reports of delegates without discussion. Does any elected member wish to present or table a delegate report? No. We move to public question time at item 6. In response to questions taken on notice, responses to previous questions taken on notice from the 19th of November 2004 OCM are included in the ordinary council meeting agenda for tonight's meeting. They will be published, obviously, in the minutes of the meeting. A question time from the public. I open question time now. It's 5:35 p.m. on the dot. I just wanted to ask, first of all, are there any questions from the public before we proceed? I don't believe that there are. Lots of shaking of heads. That being the case, I don't propose to formally open or close public question time. There being no questions, we shall push on to item 7, which is the confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting held back on the 19th of November 2024. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 4 of tonight's agenda. Councillors, can I have a mover, please, for that item? Councillor Shen, second. Thank you. A seconder. Councillor Rodriguez, thank you. We shall put that item to the vote.
The motion for the confirmation of the November OCM minutes has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. We shall move on then to item 8, which is petitions, presentations and deputations. At item 8.1, petitions, there are none. 8.2, presentations, similarly there are none. At item 8.3, I'm really pleased to see a deputation has been approved for from the Year 8s from Lynwood Senior High School. 2018 School of the Year in Western Australia, I believe. That's what the sign says out on High Road. Really proud to have the school in our district. Really pleased to see you here tonight. I'll just go back to this. It said the students have been working hard on a project for this project over the past 6 weeks and recently submitted the project for the Minister's Innovation Challenge. Kids, please come forward and make your deputation. The microphone is actually switched on there at the front. Now, just before you start, now I don't want you to be nervous, all right? This is just a casual group. There's hardly anyone here. So just relax. It's only me and the council here, so we're very much looking forward to your deputation. You have up to 10 minutes. Go right ahead. Just introduce yourself and start.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor Patrick Holt and everyone else present. We, the Lynwood Senior High School team, are here today to present about our idea of an innovative bus that goes around Canning City Centre.
The main causes of congestion in this area includes a huge increase in population and the numbers of people in the Canning City Centre, Albany Highway being used as a main artery into the city, a massive growth in the commercial zone since the development of Carousel, and a complicated one-way road network which many people find extremely hard to navigate and use. Another big contributing factor is how the residents of Perth have become so car dependent over the years that many people take short trips around the Canning City Centre once they reach Carousel. An example of this is people using their car to move around shops like Officeworks, Chemist Warehouse, Bunnings, which are all walking distance away from each other.
A major cause of concern in our local area is the huge amount of congestion in the Canning City Centre, as well as the one-way road network, Albany Highway, that goes right through it.
The main issue we currently face and aim to solve is how can we reduce congestion and improve public transport in the Canning City Centre. Our target customers that we took into consideration when planning this project are anyone living, working, or using the area, everyone who uses Albany Highway, and surrounding businesses who are frustrated about the amount of traffic congestion and dangerous roads.
Our solution is a free electric cat-style bus called the Canning Economy Bus. This will provide excellent travel options, accessibility, and connection, and would help reduce the number of small trips that contribute to the congestion and air pollution on Albany Highway. This supports the $76 million Canning redevelopment plan, as well as increasing public accessibility in Canning City Centre area.
Our team has spent many lessons together and put a lot of thought into the exact locations of our bus stops and routes to ensure maximum usage and traffic reduction. We propose to have 2 bus routes running in an inverted figure of 8. Using these routes, the bus can cover as much of the area as possible and also give people the option to switch their current bus and hop onto the second one, taking them in an opposite direction. We have also strategically placed 16 bus stops to service popular shops, commercial and recreational facilities. As you can see on the map, some of the stops are placed around Carousel, giving people the option to enter the shopping complex through multiple different sides. And some are also placed around some of the most frequently visited stores, such as Audi, Officeworks, and IKEA. We have also tried to make this project as cost-effective as possible, so 4 of our stops are placed on pre-existing bus routes, and 2 are linked with train stations, Beckenham and Cannington Station, to offer commuters a car-free way of accessing the Canning City Centre.
Our bus is specially designed for our customers who regularly use the Canning City Centre. We have designed it to be accessible and convenient for everybody to use, with extendable ramp at doors as well as inclusive disability and pram seating. We also have extra wide seats for anybody using the bus, as well as built-in storage above and below the seats for our customers to store their shopping bags. The bus stops feature smart digital solar-powered information displays that could notify when the next available bus would arrive.
We carried out a number of market validation studies, including questionnaires, with over 30 residents in the Canning City Centre, over 210 online surveys, and we even spoke to some of the members of the City of Canning to pitch our idea. Some of our students had the opportunity to attend a meeting hosted by Millennium Kids called the Agents of Climate Change. This was where we talked to the members and received their opinion. They said that our project proposal would tie nicely with the ongoing Canning Urban Development Plan and improve the public transport of the area. The results received from the surveys were all supportive to the proposal. 59% of people visited the commercial areas around the city centre when they visit Carousel. This just proves the fact that people do take unnecessary trips around the area, and this all contributes to the pollution, traffic congestion, and the heat island effect of the area. 55% said that they're open to using alternate modes of transport. So this means that if Canning did open a bus system, there would be enough people to actually make good use of the bus. And 64% said that they would definitely use the cat-style bus. Many people who we have spoken with agree that adding a bus system would be a good addition to the City of Canning. So we hope that you take our ideas into consideration as you plan your Canning Urban Development Plan. Thank you for listening.
That's fabulous. Thank you very much for coming along this evening. That was a tremendous deputation, and I appreciate you delivering it to Council. Look, congestion and road safety really are enduring problems for all local governments, but particularly with us in the City of Canning, and most probably on Albany Highway, which is a real hotspot for both congestion and also for serious accidents. We're always looking for new ideas, innovation, and especially transport methods that are more sustainable. So thank you for the amount of thought that you put in there. I know it's been a class project you've been working on. I can't promise you that you're going to see the Carnaby's bus racing around anytime soon, but I can tell you the Council has heard you loud and clear today and take what you said with a great deal of respect. So thank you once again for coming. Now, we could be here for quite some time, so please don't feel that you need to stay in the meeting. We could be here for another hour and a half or so, so please feel free to leave whenever you would like to. But again, on behalf of Council, thank you very much, Lynwood High School, for coming along this evening. We very much appreciate it. At item 9, applications for leave of absence, there is a recommendation on screen. The Council grant Councillor Hardeep Singh a leave of absence for the period the 10th of December 2024 to the 22nd of April 2025 inclusive. The recommendation is on page 4 of the agenda and is on screen. I'm happy to move that from the Chair. Do I have a seconder, please, for that? Councillor Sekon. Thank you. I'm not certain we need any debate on the matter. Does anyone wish to speak against it before I put it to the vote? Councillors, will put the item to the vote. Thank you.
The motion to grant Councillor Singh a leave of absence has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you, councillors. We move to item 10, questions by members of which due notice has been given without discussion. No leave for those questions has been received. There are no questions this evening. Items brought forward for the convenience of those in the public gallery. There are none. Reports of committee meetings, the first of which is Report 12.1, the report of the Audit and Risk Committee held on the 4th of December 2024. The recommendation from that meeting is on page 5 of the agenda and is also on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for the officer's recommendation? Deputy Mayor Spencer-Teo, thank you. A seconder? I'm happy to second it from the chair. Deputy Mayor?
Nothing to add, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I support the recommendation. I have nothing further to add. Councillors, anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Thank you. We'll put the item to the vote.
The motions for the Audit and Risk Committee meeting have been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. We move to 13.2 from the Directorate of Ms Lorraine Driscoll, the Director of Corporate and Commercial. It's item CC 027 of 24. Title of the report is the Monthly Financial Report for October 2024. The recommendation is now on screen. It also appears on page 15 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Councillor Bain, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Parkinson, thank you. Councillor Bain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support the officer's recommendation. I do have a request. If the city could, if it can, happy to take it on notice, just provide a brief update on the Verge incentive scheme and how that's progressing. Thank you.
We may take that on notice. Can we? We'll take that on notice. We'll provide a written update on that, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Parkinson, do you have anything you wish to add?
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Anyone else before we put it to the vote? Thank you, councillors. Let's put the item to the vote.
Motion CC-02724 has been carried with all 10 in voting in favour.
Thank you. The next item is one of a number of lease items this evening, the first of which is CC 028 of 24. The title of this report is Lease Renewal, Willetton Playgroup Association Incorporated, located number 2 to 8 Kingfisher Loop in Willetton. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 58. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Deputy Mayor Spencer-Teo and a seconder. Councillor Kunza, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. If I may, I'd just like to make a minor amendment to, well, not minor, but an amendment to item 2, just at the end of that sentence to add, but to keep to a Tier 1 community rate.
Hang on a second. Authorises the Chief Executive Officer to finalise and sign the relevant lease documentation between the City of Canning and Willetton Playgroup Association Incorporated. And you want added to that the following words?
Yeah, comma, but to keep to a Tier 1 community rate.
Might be easier to just put a new part 3 in there. Mr Driscoll, can I just ask, do you see any issue with the amendment? There's no consequence that you foresee?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. So changing from a Tier 2 to a Tier 1 is a difference of $845 a year to $394. The group have agreed with the Tier 2, but I don't see any difference other than a small reduction in revenue.
So the group has already agreed to the Tier 2. Can I just ask the rationale for changing it to a Tier 1?
I have had a discussion with the group, and they told me that they were told that there was no longer a rate of that Tier 1, and they had to go on the Tier 2. But obviously, seeing this other 2 leases for the Scouts who are being offered a Tier 1, it's clear that there is still a Tier 1 community rate available.
Ms Driscoll?
Thank you. Yes, there is a Tier 1 rate available, and it's in our fees and charges. The Tier 2 is for clubs or organisation with a reasonable capacity to generate generate income, and this group were determined to be able to generate additional income. And I believe that conversation was had.
Thank you. But the Willetton Playgroup Association, just by virtue of their manner of operation, they would fit within the criteria? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Can I just see that up on the screen, though? But probably don't need the word "but" in there. It probably just should read between the City and Canning and Willetton Playgroup Association incorporated as a Tier 1 community. I'll leave the wordsmithing to you, Deputy Mayor, but I think that word "but's" a bit negative, redundant.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
As a Tier 1 community lease. You happy with that?
Yeah.
So we have an amendment which actually does slightly change the recommendation from what was in the report. Can I just have I'll treat it as a recommendation, as an amendment, sorry. Can I have a seconder for the amendment? Thank you. Councillor Kunza is the seconder for the amendment. Deputy Mayor, just want to quickly talk us through there and we'll just take a quick vote on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, just so you know, the Playgroup's been in a holdover lease for some time due to reasons that I'm not going to go into this evening, but they have been on one of our old leases for some time. The Willetton Playgroup is Canning's most popular and successful playgroup. That's not only due to its location, but it's also due to the tireless work of its parent volunteer committee over a number of years. The committee over the past 3 or 4 years have completely replaced items in the playground and refreshed and renewed all the toys in the centre with grants and funding obtained through third parties. Volunteers are incredibly hard to come by these days, and volunteers who are willing to go above and beyond are even harder to come by. Each year a new committee comes on board these types of organisations, and you never know how much time and energy they're willing to commit. The lease that the Playgroup was on was, like I said, one of our old leases, which wasn't in line with the terms referenced in BR01. With this, the ongoing maintenance of the grounds was not really specified in the lease, and the city assumed responsibility for many of those items. Now that this lease is in line with BR01, the Playgroup has clear responsibility of the maintenance of the building and the surrounds, which comes at a hefty price. As a member of this community, I really want to see the Willetton Playgroup thrive and continue to provide their invaluable service for many years to come without having to increase their fees to cover this rent. The Scouts facilities coming up are on a Tier 1 rent scale, and their building and facilities are incredibly similar in size. However, they don't have to maintain the surrounding areas of play equipment that is enjoyed by all the users. I believe it's more than fair that for the next 5 years, at least while the Playgroup adjusts to these additional expenses, that we keep the rent as is, and that's at a Tier 1 scale. For the sake of a few $100s, let's just make it easy for these volunteers going forward, and I hope you support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kunza, have you got anything you feel you need to add?
Yeah, I just
Just
support,
in relation to the amendment.
Yeah, I support the Deputy Mayor's amendment. As she mentioned, a lot of these groups rely on limited volunteers. There's a lot of effort put into fundraising to provide equipment and so forth. Whilst the relevant difference between a Tier 2 and a Tier 1 doesn't mean a lot to the City of Canning in our overall budget, it does mean a lot to these groups. So whilst I acknowledge the rationale in the officer, in the paragraphs relevant in the officer document, I agree with the Deputy Mayor's amendment.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? I'll just call for anyone wishing to speak against the amendment, Councillor.
I'm not speaking against the amendment, I'm just supporting the amendment.
I'm just going to call for anybody speaking against the amendment. Does anyone wish to speak against it? Thank you, Councillor. I might just put it to the vote. I don't think there's any need to speak to it. Councillors, we'll put that on to the, just the amendment to the vote.
Amendment to CC-02824 has been carried with 9 in favour, with Councillor Hone voting against the amendment.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I'll ask you to speak to the substantive motion, if you would like to.
I support the substantive motion and have nothing to add. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kunza, anything you'd like to add?
I support the officer recommendation, the amended officer recommendation. I also just wanted to add that as we've gone through our community infrastructure strategy, we've actually, a few of our local playgroups have disappeared. So we want these to be thriving. We want them to be as thriving as possible. And I thank the staff for bringing this lease to a conclusion so that they have some sort of certainty going forward.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against the item? Councillors, we might just put that one to the vote. Thank you very much.
Substantive motion as amended for CC-02824 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. CC 029 of 24 is the next item. The report title is the Lease Renewal, Willetton Scouts and Guides. The officer's recommendation appears on page 66 of tonight's agenda and is also on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Deputy Mayor, and a seconder for that item. Councillor Page. Thank you, Councillor Page. Deputy Mayor.
I support the officer's recommendation. Have nothing to add. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Page, would you like to add anything?
No, I also support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against the item? Thank you, councillors. Let's put it to the vote. Just waiting for one.
Motion CC-02924 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. The next item is CC 030 of 24. The title of the report is Lease Renewal, Scouts Ferndale. The recommendation is on page 74 of the agenda and is also on screen. Just a mover, please, for that item. Councillor Bain, Councillor Kunze, you're the seconder. Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I support the officer's recommendation and pleased to see that the Riverton Scouts will be at the Ferndale Scout Hall for at least another 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kunze.
I echo Councillor Bain's comments. Rightly or wrongly, there's been a bit of uncertainty whilst the city went through the community infrastructure strategy phase, and there's been a few members of the scout groups that have been a bit uncertain, and I'm glad that this has again come to a head because it will give them certainty, and I thank staff for their work on finalising the lease documentation.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against the item before I put it to the vote? Thank you, councillors. Let's put this item to the vote.
Motion CC-03024 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. CC 031 of 24, submission received, proposed land disposal to Indara Corporation Proprietary Limited, 40 Centenary Avenue in Wilson. The officer's recommendation is on screen. The recommendation is on page 81 of the agenda. Can I have a mover for this item, please? I'm happy to move it from the chair. A seconder. Councillor Kunze. Thank you, councillors. The item before you tonight is only before us because we had a single submission made in relation to the infrastructure to be placed in Centenary Park. When the matter came before council recently, it was supported, not unanimously, but significantly supported 9-2 by council. I think that strong support at the time shows that whilst there have been rightly some criticism of the structure, council supports its installation, and frankly the matter has gone, in my belief, too far now to turn that around, and I do support the recommendation. I also support councillors' former disposition on this item, and I ask council to stay the course and support the decision that we have already made as a council and move on. Councillor Kunze.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Councillor Bain, you wish to speak against the item?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly. Yeah, I won't be supporting the officer's recommendation, as I haven't done throughout the journey of this development application. It's just my hope that the new policy, when it does come out, will give more weight to community feedback regarding telecommunications tower and also the proximity of this sort of infrastructure to people's homes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. In the absence of anyone wishing to speak, I might put the item to the vote. Thank you.
Motion CC-031-24 has been carried with 7 voting in favour, with councillors Page, Bain and Parkinson voting against the motion.
Thank you, councillors. The next item is CC 032 of 24. The title of the report being Submission Received, Local Public Notice on Proposed Disposal of 96 Barbican Street in Shelley. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 90 of the agenda. Councillor Deputy Mayor, I believe you've got an alternate motion that you'd like to propose. I'll move the item from the chair to get it on the agenda. Do I have a seconder, please, for the officer's recommendation? We don't have an alternate motion on the table at the moment. It hasn't been put to council yet.
Can I request Deputy Mayor to move the motion?
Yes, I would like to move the alternate motion.
I think we just need to propose that there's an alternate motion. Then if this fails, we go.
But if you don't get a seconder, it automatically fails, doesn't it?
That's what I'm saying. But at the moment, there's nothing there to fall back to. We don't have it put yet. So you need to formally
I would like to
put. Thank
the
you.
alternate motion. Please.
Governors, can we put that up on screen, please? The foreshadowed alternate motion.
Yeah, that one.
Deputy Mayor, I'm just going to ask you to read that and just make sure that you're satisfied with that before we sign off on it and move on.
Yes, thank you. I believe we've all got a copy in front of us as well, hard copy.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, in the absence of a seconder for the substantive motion, we will now move to the foreshadowed alternate motion, which now becomes, for all intents and purposes, the substantive motion before you for consideration tonight. I will ask again for a mover and a seconder. The mover will be the Deputy Mayor. Can I have a seconder, please? Which will be Councillor Kunza. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I ask you to support this alternate motion in front of us tonight. And I apologise for what may appear to be a last-minute rush. I did try and get it through as an amendment, but that didn't happen, so here we are. But back when the officers recommended this piece of land be sold, I spoke against that recommendation. I did so because there is a public open space deficit in this area that was identified by our staff, and the local residents of this area use this piece of land as a park. The local residents never asked for anything in this park, not a playground, not a fountain, not even a seat. They enjoyed the open space, some with their dogs, others with basically by themselves under the shade of the mature trees that were there. Despite all of this, council resolved to sell the land, and I accept that, and we removed this space from the local community, leaving only one other park for them to use, which is Monty Square. Following this decision, I received, as I know many of you also received, phone calls, emails, and I was even stopped at the local shopping centre a few times by residents. They were clearly upset and they couldn't understand why we said there was a public open space deficit but yet sold this land. As I said, the nearest park is Monty Square, which is incredibly well patronised already by those living around it. For years they've been asking for a fence around their playground but keep getting told there's not enough funding. I've even put it in my own ward advocacy every budget for the past 3 years, and it never makes it onto the budget or never gets delivered. The sale of Barbican Street has delivered a return that far exceeds our expectations, and we're simply asking for a small portion of those funds to be allocated to better improve what little residents this side of Shelley, Riverton have remaining. Despite the funds being derived at the expense of the Bannister Ward ratepayers, the funds won't go back to them. This alternate motion basically means that some will. It will never make the residents completely happy. They would like to have their park back, but we can't turn back the time. So in summary, despite acknowledging a deficit of public open space, we took away their park. So basically what I'm asking for is those little things that these residents have been asking for many years that can't be delivered because there's no funding. I hope that you'll support me in giving them back a little from the sale of the proceeds of this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kunza.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Look, likewise, I echo what Deputy Mayor has said, and I appreciate that some of you weren't here when we discussed this back in August 2023. I too opposed the item because I thought it went against the city's public open space and play provision strategies. I mean, Shelley has less open space than what it's required to do, and this is actually a funny spot. It's in Shelley, but it's south of Leach Highway and on the boundary with Riverton. Shelley has less open space than it's required. Riverton has fewer playgrounds than it's required. And this isn't just me saying it, this is the city's own documents that we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars developing and the staff believe in. We've got 8 playgrounds in Riverton. We're supposed to have 10 based on the demographics. By 2026, we're supposed to have 11. And by 2036, we're supposed to have far more to deal with the infill and the increasing population. So despite that, there's no actual plan to increase the number of playgrounds in Riverton or in the areas that have a deficit. And in fact, in the next 4 years, the playground strategy is based on asset renewal. Adder Park, which is here, and it's right in Riverton, a bit further away from than Monty's Square is, has an extremely tiny piece of infrastructure, a rocking horse, one little slide and swings. And I'm assuming they're in good asset condition because that park's not up for renewal for a very long time, even though it's quite below what we would expect if that was your local park. So this is actually an opportunity to invest funds from this because we're not going to buy more public open space. It's just not going to happen. So the only thing we can do is increase the quality of the public open space that we have. Now, when we discussed this in August last year, I said similar words. The reality is, from a public open space and a strategy perspective, I didn't believe in it, but I believe the staff made a very good commercial decision because it couldn't have been a better time to sell. Not only has this been $220,000 up on the land valuations we had, but it's even much more than the book value or the estimates we had last year. When council made the decision and the estimates came in of what we would get for subdividing and selling this land, what we're getting is far higher than that. So we are basically just committing the funds that are the difference. So we're $220,000 more than we thought we were going to get when we did the land valuations. And this is asking for $230,000 for to be redirected into the increasing and improving the local infrastructure around that area to meet some gaps that we know we have. Our strategies speak to it, we just don't have the funding to do it. So I think it makes perfect sense and I hope council agrees.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against the matter? Councillor Hearn.
I just want to say in principle, I don't believe the source of the city funds should dictate the direction and the priority for our spending on public open spaces. So I understand your arguments and I absolutely understand the decision about removing the public open space was contested. I think we need to stick to our established strategy on the dispersion of funds.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the item? Thank you, councillors. Deputy Mayor, would you like to close?
No, I don't think there's any point. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, we'll put the item to the vote. Thank you. It's $1.38.
Alternate motion for CC-03224 has been carried with 9 in favour, with Councillor Hearn voting against the motion.
Thank you. We move to CC 033 of 24. It's the ARC 02224 Annual Report and Financial Statements for 2023 and 2024. The officer's recommendation is on screen. Councillors, just to remind you, this item requires an absolute majority of council. The recommendation also appears on page 98 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for this item? Councillor Bain, thank you for that. A seconder? Councillor Page, thank you. Councillor Bain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I support the committee's recommendation. I just want to also confirm that the general meeting of electors will be held here at the administration building. Is that correct?
I understand that's the case, CEO. Is that where we're holding it, here at the Administration Centre?
That's correct.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Page, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing to add. I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. I'd only add just quickly, I support the recommendation, but just to thank staff, but also the council for the enormous amount of work done in the undertaking of the annual report and also the annual financial statements. A big body of work which has gone through the ARC. And I'm really pleased with the result of it, and so should council. So thank you. In the absence of anyone wishing to speak against the item, we shall put it to the vote. Councillor Hearn, you have a question?
Just a comment. I would say the monthly reports up until recently have made it a bit difficult to reconcile the budget with the ongoing expenditure, and I'm hoping that the new monthly reports are going to make that a lot easier.
Director Driscoll, can I just ask you to comment on that? Will that be the case, do you feel?
Yep. Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Yep, we are making adjustments to the monthly report as we're going, and we've got some more changes to make in January, so you'll see those reconciliations.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Hearn. Thank you, councillors. Let's put the item to the vote.
Motion CCO 3324 has been carried by absolute majority with all 10 voting in favour.
Thank you. We move to item 13.3 on the agenda. Mr Graham Bride is the Director of Planning and Development. This item is from his directorate. It's PD 010 of 24, a review of local planning policies 2024, outcomes of advertising. The officer's recommendation is on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for the item? I'll move it from the chair. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Kunza is the seconder. Thank you. Councillors, I'll put the matter on the table. I support the officer's recommendation. I understand that there's been some talk about one or two of the items. I thank the city for working with one of the proponents to alleviate any concerns or many of the concerns that were raised at that time. I'm comfortable with what we have in front of us, notwithstanding, of course, that council can at any time bring back a policy matter for review, and that is open to us in the new year. If we feel that anything in here has an inadvertent consequence we feel should be addressed, I can't see a reason why the matter shouldn't be dealt with tonight. That's all I have to say. Councillor Kunza.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Look, similar to you, I'm happy that a lot of the issues raised by the submitter has been dealt with, and I understand Director Bride's involvement has been quite instrumental to delivering that. I do agree with the fundamentals of in talking about point 1 and LPO 5. I do agree with the fundamentals. I'd hate to see too much advertising across the city, and you need some sort of instrument to deal with that. The thing that I keep raising, and I raised in the SIB, is that I just feel as though the City of Canning itself needs some coordination across the directorates, because there's no alignment in terms of what we expect of the wider community and what we do ourselves. I mean, the fact that since that SIB, the Mayor's charity event had a package that enabled third-party users on our LED signage for those major sponsors to advertise on our infrastructure in areas that wouldn't be compliant with this, on infrastructure that weren't even able to do it according to their planning approval. It just, to me, there needs to be some sort of understanding as to what we're saying to the community and what we deliver ourselves. We've obviously got bus stops and infrastructure across the city that we have third-party advertising on. When we actually put in these policies about fronting public open space and being adjacent to public open space, the fact that we have infrastructure that wouldn't align with that, to me, is just not consistent. I just feel as though when we're developing policy, we need to look at what we do ourselves. The issue for me, though, is I fundamentally agree with a number of the propositions as what's raised. You need an instrument to prohibit, or not prohibit, to regulate advertising, and so I understand that from that capacity. I don't, as I've said in the past, we've got, we used to tell community groups not to put signage on the verges, but we would do it for our events. what's good for the goose should be good for the gander, and I feel as though we need to continuously improve in that area because we should be holding ourselves to the standards that we expect the community to follow and private enterprise as well. Thanks.
Just on that and just on the public record, I agree with you, Councillor, and it's a matter that you've been very consistent with over the years. The CEO and I had a conversation. We're of the same view, and we'd like to see consistent approach applied across the city. So we'll work towards that. Definitely, we're on the same page in relation to that. We agree with you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to speak on the item before we put it to the vote? Thank you, councillors. No need to actually rebut, so I will choose not to close debate other than to invite you to actually vote on the item. Thank you.
Motion PD 010-24 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. Item IE 020 of 24 is the first of the reports from the Directorate of Mr Warren Bowe, the Director of Infrastructure and Environment. It is request for quote FM.037.216, Cannington and Riverton Leisureplexes building renewal works. We have the recommendation on page 117 of tonight's agenda, and it is also on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for this item? Councillor Kunza, thank you. A seconder, please, from the floor. Happy. Councillor Bain, thank you. I'll take your second. Councillor Kunza.
Mayor, I support the officer recommendation. I do have a question with respect to the issues I raised last week. Is it possible at some point for the city to actually do some work as to what a future wellness pool expansion could look like and whether it is cost effective at some point in the future? Just from the perspective that I know Councillor Hearn raised some questions today about the size of the pool and the use of the pool. And when we actually included those classes into the hydrotherapy pool, we actually told the community that we were going to look at expanding capacity, and that's what we were going to do because we actually acknowledged their concerns. So the fact that we didn't do any work subsequent to that, I mean, it's all right telling them it's not cost feasible to do that sort of project, but to learn that no work was done at Riverton is a bit disappointing. And no one here, it's previous administrations, no one here is responsible for that. But I just feel as though, I know it doesn't directly relate to this tender, but my issues last week did. And the issues raised, so I'll finish there, but is it possible? It triggered you last week. It did trigger me.
The question is, can we look at some comparative service delivery across the sector to see whether we're keeping pace with what other local governments might be offering in the same space? Is that sort of what you're looking at?
No, I know we're not.
Okay.
The question is whether there's anything cost effective that we can do, recognising that our facility is 24 years old. Is there any capacity to do it? Because that's what we told our community, that we would look at expanding the wellness pool and whether that was cost feasible, whether it was actually something we could potentially do, and we never looked at it. So,
thank you. Director.
Yeah, certainly, Mr Mayor. We can look at the doing some preliminary work on that and refer it through to council. At the
why are you sounding like Lee Marvin tonight? What's happened to your voice?
We can refer it through to the budget process for next year, Mr Mayor.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That would be a yes. Thank you, Councillor Hearn. A question?
Am I allowed to ask a question, please?
Yes, you can ask a question.
So,
yes.
Given we've only received a very limited amount of responses, and these works are really quite complex, I'm wondering, do we have the capacity at times to step out beyond our preferred suppliers to source the works? Because I see the quotes we've received are quite varied, and I'm just wondering, if there is any benefit sometimes to go beyond that scope.
Director Bowe, sorry.
Happy to answer that question, Mr Mayor. That's a good question, Councillor Hearn. We specifically went to our preferred panel of suppliers on this one because of the complexity and the nature of the works. We believe that our panel of suppliers are well resourced, geared up and experienced to deliver this type of work. Quite extensive scope over a long period of time, dealing with high pressure environment where there's lots of patronage, etc. Conversely, in relation to the other tender that's before council tonight regarding Corinthian Park, we did move outside of the preferred panel of suppliers and went to an open tender because we felt that the market may respond better to that. But certainly our use of panel contractors is under review, but we firmly believe that our panel was best equipped to deliver this type of project.
Thank you. Councillor Bain, did you want to speak? You were seconder for this item.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. I need to say I support the officer's recommendation and very much look forward to these works taking place in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. That'll bring them up to a standard expected by the community. They're already of good standard, but we can certainly do better. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Bain. Anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Thank you. Let's put the item to the vote.
Motion IE-02024 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you, Governance. The next item is IE-021 of 24. The title of the report is Tender 33/2024 for the Corinthian Park Hall Renewal, noting that Deputy Mayor Spencer-Teo has declared an impartiality interest in the item due to being a member of the club. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 125 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Deputy Mayor as the mover, a seconder. Councillor Kunza. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
All I can say is hallelujah that this is here. So I support the officer's recommendation and thank staff for getting it here and thank the club for being incredibly patient. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Certainly the time of the year to be yelling out hallelujah. Councillor Kunza.
Ditto.
Ditto, another hallelujah there. Anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Thank you, we shall. We'll put the item to the vote. Thank you, Governance.
Motion IE-02124 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Tuchek, bit of decorum over there on the left, please, if you don't mind. Councillors, we'll move to IE-022 of 24. The item title is Tender 05 of 24, Plumbing Services. The officer's recommendation appears on page 132 and is also on screen. Thank you, Governance. A mover for this item? Councillor Page, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Shen second, thank you. Councillor Page?
I support the officer's recommendation. Hopefully it will decrease the time lag between issues being reported and issues being resolved. So, yeah, very looking forward to accepting this tender.
That'd be a good outcome, wouldn't it? Thank you. Councillor Second?
I agree with the officer's recommendation. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to ask a question or to speak against the item? Thank you. We shall put it to the vote. Just one more. Got it.
Motion IE-02224 has been carried unanimously with all 10 in favour.
Thank you. And the final item on the agenda for 2024 is IE-023 of 24. It's a request for quote FM 037.472 Whaleback Golf Course Driving Range Perimeter Netting. The officer's recommendation is on screen and also appears on page 138 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for the item? Deputy Mayor, a seconder, please. Councillor Parkinson, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I support the officer's recommendation. Have nothing to add. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Parkinson.
Nothing further to add, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against the item? Councillor Hearn, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, please. Directed to the CEO through you, Mr. Mayor. I note that both tender responses have articulated similar heights. They have bemusingly articulated quite different levels of ball retention. I think whilst we are being asked about capital expenditure, in my view, the essence of this decision is about risk management. My question to you would be, what kind of retention rate are we actually targeting and what are we actually expecting? I think we here are responsible for the risk inherent with this decision.
Maybe let's refer that to Mr. Day.
Mr Day, Matt, would you like to come forward? Are you able to ask that question? Where are we aiming for, from a risk management point of view, what's the target there with retention of balls?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the revised target was 5% on the northern side and 2% on the southern side due to the risk of the southern side with right-handed golfers and their propensity to slice. So we revised that limit to that to do the quote, but with the offer we've got in the negotiation, we'll be able to get that to 2% both sides as a maximum retention rate or a slippage rate, for a better word, with the aim of actually trying to reduce that on some key points to 1%.
Just in response, just in relation to Councillor Hearn's very valid question, you're saying that the 2% would slippage, which would be 2% of balls possibly leaving the course, would be the worst case scenario?
That's correct, Mayor. That's our target. It's very hard to specify a exact number. We could have gone 0, but that's probably not achievable with even with the netting we're putting in. If someone really wants to do something they shouldn't do, that would let them do that. But at 2% on either side, that's reducing it from 10 to 2. It's a significant reduction in risk. And as I said, we're negotiating to with the preferred supplier. There are some areas they've highlighted in their trajectory analysis where we can increase the height to reduce that to 1%.
Thank you. Councillor Hearn, we're reducing it to 98%, increasing it to 98% retention as the worst case scenario, hopefully better than that.
Yes, thanks for that detailed response. For me, the variance in the slippage with 2 identical scenarios, supposedly same height netting, I didn't quite understand that, so I appreciate that feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hearn. Councillor Parkinson, I'm sorry, did I invite you to speak? I did?
You did, and nothing further to add, thanks.
Still got nothing further to add? Okay, all right, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Thank you. Let's put this item to the vote.
Motion IE-02324 has been carried with all 10 voting in favour.
Thank you. At item, I think we've lost a number there. The Directorate of Mr Gary Fisher, the Director of Customer and Community. Gary, I don't know how you escaped any scrutiny, but you've got no reports at all tonight. At item 14, motions of which previous notice has been given. There are none. Urgent business tonight at item 15. There is none. Confidential matters at item 16. There are none for Council's consideration. And at closure at item 17, there be no further business. I now declare the meeting formally closed at 6:28 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. Merry Christmas to you all. And can I also say again, thank you very much for your contribution on behalf of our community councillors. You've gone above and beyond. It's been a successful year for this council. And again, to reiterate my thanks sincerely to our directors and all of our staff for their input this year. I know it is appreciated. Thank you.